Once all the parts are printed, I'm going to assemble them by welding them with TPU using one of these 3D printed pen things. I've never really succeeded at making any art with it, but it is very effective as a welder. And it's connected to my dry box with the spool of TPU in it off camera. So here's one of the 3D printed TPU sides. This one is made of Soraya Tech 85A TPU. And after minimal de-stringing, because this turned out surprisingly clean this time around, the 4 ribs go in like so. You have to do this on a hard, flat surface because you don't want to weld it permanently into a wrinkly shape. The 3D pen I'm using is a Mint 3D Pro. It's designed for use with both PLA and ABS. It doesn't explicitly support TPU, but it is pretty good anyway. It's set at 215 degrees Celsius, and the speed is going to be at like medium-high for this part. But there's a groove running around the outside edge of each rib, and so I'm going to do one pass just to fill up the groove with TPU, and then a second pass to make the actual weld. And I'm also only doing it, I'll do like the right side of each one first, and then flip it around and do the other side. And also, just off camera, I've got a HEPA filter running, and it's a good idea to wear a mask while doing this. So holding the pen straight up and down, doesn't look like it from the camera's angle, but straight up and down, I'm going to move at a constant speed, watching that the TPU is squirting out just in front of the pen as I go. And also the pen is dragging along the top of that ridge that runs in the groove between the rib and the side. And so both of those gaps are now filled with TPU. And then, still holding the pen straight up and down, I'll do the final weld. And then I'll see how clear of a camera shot of this I can get. Thankfully, this process is very forgiving. The weld is way stronger than necessary, so I'm mostly worried about trying to get the best aesthetic result possible, which isn't particularly aesthetic. And of course, the printer could technically do this with some handwritten G-code, but as of yet, I haven't taken the time or the risk of trying to figure out how to do that. At these gaps, it's important not to impinge on them with the weld. You can, of course, just cut off any globbing excess that gets in the way, but those gaps are going to be important later. Sometimes I need to do a third pass because the second pass ended up being too thin, because I can't really see what I'm doing because the camera is in the way. Oh, important point. The ribs are made of PETG, which bonds really strongly to TPU. It is also possible to print these in PLA, and they do bond strong enough, although the top and bottom parts I'm skeptical about whether they would bond strong enough if they were made of PLA. I haven't actually tried that. So ribs, PLA maybe, but PETG is recommended. The rest of the parts really have to be PETG. And that's about as good of an aesthetic result as I've ever gotten, and I've had quite a bit of practice at this by now. The last one now, I'll just do it and time how long it takes for reference. Another couple of things to note are every time I draw a line with the pen, at the very beginning it comes out quite a bit faster and then it slows down. So I have to move my hand at a variable speed, continually watching what the bead is doing, like how it's flowing, to make sure that I'm getting a consistent thickness despite the variable flow rate. And also, the height at which I'm holding the pen is kind of on the border between pouring the liquid onto the joint as opposed to smushing it in. So there is no, well, rather, that's on the second pass. On the first pass, I'm definitely smushing it in. But on the second pass, it's like right on the line between smushing and pouring. And letting the plastic fill up the gap on its own fluidity. That took 11 minutes plus a couple minutes of setup time, so call it like 15 minutes per side, so an hour of welding per bellows. The result is pretty strong. I could rip this if I really tried, but as long as there isn't a thin spot right on a corner, it can take several pounds of tension. And as long as the pen was set high enough, 215 might be a tad low, maybe. In the past I used 230, but then it starts smoking, so guess I'm still a bit undecided on what temperature is best. And what you get is a springy, flexible sub-assembly that neatly folds up and then pushes back flat under its own elasticity, which is really handy for something this simple.